G'day, wonderful listeners. This is episode 16 of Trev's Talk, and I'm your host, Trev. Last week, I closed off the episode talking about my relationship with Our Lady, my name for the Mother of Jesus. This week, I want to remind you that I had the third dream, the dancing partner dream, and my name, Trevor, called out in the night by a lovely female voice to wake me several times. All these I've spoken about in previous episodes, and I hope they have caused you to think I really do have spiritual communication of a kind operating between me and Our Lady. I believe the GBs or goosebumps are prompts from her as well, and they are Our Lady's way of guiding me to do her wishes here on earth. I've promised in previous episodes to keep you informed on two things I have been led to by dreams and GBs. I am wanting to take you on a journey with me on the two things so you get to see how I'm led to some act Our Lady wants me to take. Those two things are, one, for me to get a pilot's license, and for two, me to start up a scholarship fund for young marginalised students, especially Aboriginal. I received spiritual prompts over many years to get a pilot's license, the last of which was mentioned in my journal in September last year, which states, I woke up around 3:30 a.m. after a good dream of getting my pilot's license. I was put into a jaunty mood and confidence when I passed the flying test. This is the third time I've dreamt of learning to fly, so I'm going to go for it. End of entry. 2 days after the dream, I applied for an appointment to do a Class 2 medical certificate, which is needed for a pilot's license, and I actually did the exam 5 days after the dream. 2.5 months later, in November last year, I got a letter from the authority to tell me my request for the medical was refused because I had a history of mental illness and was still on medication for it. But in the same letter, the authority informed me that there was a way to lodge a plea for reconsideration. So on the 2nd of December 2024, 5 days later, I sent in a certificate from my doctor saying he had been my doctor for the last 18 years. He was of the opinion that I was fit to be a pilot and listed the reasons he was of that medical opinion. I did not hear from the authority for over 3.5 months. So I again sent in a copy of my doctor's certificate, together with a document I drew up listing most of the achievements I had accomplished since my last mental issue. The list was impressive and included an Order of Australia medal. I was showing that I had been highly active in community service for the last 24 years, doing things I could not have done if I was having any mental issues, and therefore stable since 2001. I did not hear anything for 3 weeks, and on the 14th of April just past, I decided to ring into them and ask why I was not hearing anything, and mentioned about the long delay, 7 months, since I first started the procedure. The lady told me she would put my case on the urgent list and I would hear something soon. 2 days later, just before the Easter holiday break, I received an email telling me I was still refused a medical Class 2 on the same regulations as before. Right there, at that point, I would normally say, "Stuff it, I give up." Remember, I'm just short of my 84th birthday and can't see how having a pilot's license can lead to me getting a cheap way to travel. So why stress? Maybe just forget about the pilot license thing. But wait, remember also the dream I mentioned at the start of this episode. According to that dream, I am going to be in a jaunty mood and confidence when I pass the flying test. That spiritual dream says I passed the flying test. I must have obtained the medical certificate class 2 to pass the flying test. So, carry on, Trev. Continue to fight for the medical class 2. Then I had a thought that maybe I could approach Ben Harvey from the Sunday Times to see if he might do a story on me being harshly treated by an aviation doctor refusing to grant me a medical clearance to fly when I had my doctor's certificate saying okay to be a pilot. I want to travel around the country towns advocating for people with mental issues and fight against stigma. I thought such a story from Ben might activate the big publicity required to get the full empowerment of my Medgewater. When I did email Ben, he suggested I first go through official aviation channels and apply for a reconsideration of their refusal. So, I then submitted a request online to the Aviation Authority for a reconsider of their refusal to grant me medical clearance. The procedure for them to reconsider takes 10 to 12 weeks, so now I just have to wait on them. Let's just check events since my first dose of GBs about cheap travel or flying, which was first noted in my journal on the 23rd of June 2010. After that, I then had special dreams on flying in 2010, in 2021, and finally in September last year. I then applied for medical clearance and was refused in November last year. I applied again this year in March to be refused again just before Easter on the 16th of April. I emailed Ben the reporter on the 17th of April and he advised me to apply for reconsideration, which I did on the 24th of April. So there is a trail starting from 2010 up to now, 25 years later in 2025, with the Aviation Authority saying I won't get a medical clearance, but the spiritual world saying I will get a medical clearance, and there is still the possibility that I might get a story from Ben as well. All I have to do now is wait for 10 to 12 weeks for the Aviation Authority's decision on whether they have granted me reconsideration and given me medical clearance to fly. I will report on their decision in a podcast at that time. I feel, wonderful listeners, you may think I've given too much detail about getting a pilot's license, but I need to give the detail so when I do get the license, it will prove the GBs and dreams I've been getting since 2010 do really foretell the future. I really do get prophecy from the spiritual world. My other promise was to keep you informed on my scholarship project. I have had a meeting with Pete, the principal of Mooditch School, and he has come on board enthusiastically. He is drawing up a program of how a government school can work with the Medjugorje Centre in assisting promising students to reach greater levels of their potential. He will take a week or two to develop his program. I will report on it in a podcast when it is ready. He will be a very highly appreciated member of the scholarship team and help bring the project into being from its first spiritual hints way back in 2010. To have the Mooditch Scholarship Fund, my name for it, we will need funds in decent amounts if the project is going to be meaningful, like I believe it will become, as I'm sure I'm being led into it by Our Lady. I remember getting GBs over a Muslim lady called Medina about 3 weeks ago, and have written in my journal about her on March the 11th, 12th, 24th and April the 9th. Colleen, my daughter, is working on getting a meeting with Medina, which I will be attending also. I believe I have a very good chance of interesting Medina in having the Muslim community join our scholarship project as a serious donor. I will report to you in future podcasts on whether she comes on board in some manner. Now please don't forget to subscribe and like if on YouTube, and follow and rate if on Spotify. A comment would be good as well, wonderful listener. So, that's it for this week. Interesting times are coming on where I finish up with a pilot's license and just how the scholarship project develops. Stick with me on listening to these podcasts, and this is Trev tuning out for this week.